Brother seemed to have suggested, while he was making his remarks, that we are opposed to the president's recommendations just on account that he opposed the BBI process, while it is on record that, for instance, yours truly was in the BBI bandwagon.
All right.
I want to remind him that when the matter eventually ended up at the Supreme Court, the appellants had 7 questions that they took to the Supreme Court.
All right.
Out of the 7 questions, the Supreme Court agreed with the appellants on 5 of those questions. The only 2 of those questions that did not see light of the day at the Supreme Court was one, that the president cannot initiate an amendment.
All right.
And especially when their amendment, as my brother had indicated, that touches on certain articles of the Constitution.
All right.
What we are saying is that let us first agree that we all love this country equally. And we want this country to succeed.
All right.
And looking at the background of our history, look at the amendments, the way we do them from 65 when we are becoming a republic. Because when we were becoming a republic, ideally we should have gone for an election. We did not.
We did not, yeah.
We made our prime minister the president. And then went on a series of changes until by the time we were getting to 1983, we become a by law single party state. And it does not get any better from that until we get to the point of repealing that old constitution when the people of Kenya enact and give unto themselves the Constitution of Kenya 2010.
All right.
What we are saying is that for the president to do this thing in a neater manner, then let us be candid. One, let us open up the public participation space so that if we want to say have a hybrid, because we can have a hybrid of both parliamentarism and presidentialism.
Right.
Let the people of Kenya tell us precisely how they want that done.
Okay.
Because the second question that did not see the light of day at the Supreme Court was the question of public participation. When the promoters of BBI were saying that the town halls that were done by both the task force and the steering committee sufficed as public participation.
All right.
But the court said that we also need to have a constituent assembly. If you look at what, he's a lawyer, he knows better, the case of Timothy Njoya and 6 others versus the AG. In the Timothy Njoya case, when a constituent assembly is described, and for purposes of our listener who may not have had the benefit of being a lawyer, is that the same way we went to Bomas in 2003, 2004, to look into our constitution, to give recommendations. Now that was a proper constituent assembly.
All right.
So we would ask the president and his people to make sure that we have a proper, coherent public participation where the people of Kenya can tell us precisely what if exactly it is pure presidentialism as it is, or remove parliamentary, but then if it is a hybrid, how do we tweak it so that it suits our unique circumstances and history?
As a country.
Thank you.
All right, Nurdin?
You know, when the president assumed office, he said that this will be a government that observes the rule of law.
Okay.
And I was very happy to hear that because, you know, we learn from history. And him being right as the deputy to the former president, you should have seen his hits and misses.
Okay.
Matters the law. Now, we have a very live matter in court to do with CDF.
Okay.
Now, when you bring such a recommendation, that is mischievous. Because at the end of the day, the matter is live in court, and it's more or less like a tactic, as a sweet way of trying to engrave it so that you avoid future litigations.
All right.
Number 2, yes, we have an issue with matters gender parity when you look at our parliament.
Yeah.
And I believe we need to address it. But I read a lot of mischief because, you know, they say he who comes for equity must come with clean hands.
True.
You cannot fail to meet the threshold in your cabinet appointments, in your PS appointments, and then try to meet the requirements in parliament. It doesn't make sense. That's why I'm saying the political class is hypocritical.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I believe that things like this office of the opposition leader, are you see, in BBI, there were sweeteners. Yeah. That is a sweetener in this. Okay. Because right now, there are things that he'd want the CDF engraved in the Constitution. Because you see, first and foremost, people have to understand why we have CDF, or why we got to have CDF. CDF came courtesy of the Kibaki government. because there were areas that were marginalized, areas that felt like, for example, we were not in government, so projects never went there. So the members of parliament used to try build schools and eat early. But now we have to ask ourselves a question. We are post 2010 constitution, where we have devolution.
Okay.
So my question is, why do you need CDF at the end of the day?
Okay.
You see, the problem is members of parliament, most of them use that CDF to enrich themselves. Others use it to campaign. It's a campaign tool.
Okay.
There are those who have worked with CDF, but a majority of them misuse that fund.
Okay.
And they dare tell you that, you know, we don't have direct access, which is a lie, because at the end of the day, they propose names.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I believe the reason why, that's why I say that house is captured. The reason why he needs those members of parliament to have CDF is because he who feeds you controls you.
Okay.
You get?
So they won't have like much power.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Very